came out here a couple of days ago on a Saturday, and there were just tons and tons of people around, so I didn't get a whole lot of pictures taken or video taken. So I decided to come back on a Monday, and there's only 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot, so it looks like it might be a fairly decent day to go down the trek to take some pictures and take my time. I have to say that there are few things in life that bring me any more peace than to be near a waterfall. I don't know why that is, but I just absolutely love them. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be tall. There is just something about the sound of the water and watching the waterfall. I don't know. I want to try to learn to convey some of that feeling in my images. And, you know, I've taken several images of waterfalls, and I have to say that so far I haven't captured that feeling yet. Maybe today's the day. I don't know. Let's go see. I don't know what kind of sound I'm going to get here. I don't have my lapel mic on, and the waterfall's right behind me, but hopefully you can hear me okay in this attempt. So I made it down the hill, and I have taken a few shots in between these trees down here to the falls and slowed it down enough that it's got some nice milkiness to the water. Took a few multiple exposures so that I could focus stack some on trees up close and rocks far away. But I'm about to move over to another spot where there's a nice leading line of rocks right out into the water. I'm just waiting on some people to move from over there, and then we'll see what we got. But the falls are beautiful today. It's been raining a lot up here, so there's a lot of water, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend a walking stick if you come down to Foster Falls, because it is almost straight down from the top, and a walking stick would really help you with balance. And maybe not wear a backpack full of camera gear. That might also help you with balance. So we'll see what we got over here on the other side. So I've moved over a little bit further than that jetty. I've got a system of rocks here in the water, and the rocks just look better when they're wet. These large rocks out here that I was just at, they're dry. They won't look good in the picture, I'm afraid. These rocks, some of them are dry up here close to the camera, and some of them are wet out in the water. And so to be able to set that up, sort of turning away from the light so that I don't have a whole wide dynamic range going on, and I'm looking more toward the shadow, which will also help increase the shutter speed. I should say slow down the shutter speed so that I can get more movement, more silkiness in the water. Should do the trick. And then I think I'm going to change locations and try to see what's on the side over there from here. All right, so that shot doesn't look too bad. I kind of like the fact that those rocks are separated a little bit. I've got my eye on this other jetty of rocks out here, but it's a real solid rock formation, and I'm not sure it's going to get me the same look. What I wound up with was a 3-stop graduated neutral density filter to cut down the highlights of the water at the top, and then another neutral density filter on top of that, which gave me about a 10-second exposure to try to smooth that water out as much as possible. So all in all, I think it's a good start, and we'll see where the next shot comes from. All right, so I'm going to try this handheld. I don't know if I can do this or not, but this is my setup, and I've got these rocks right out here in the image, and as you can see, I've taken out all of this bright over here, move my waterfall over to the left side of the image so I get more of a shadow. And then I've got it set on F16. I have a 3-stop graduated neutral density filter just to cut down the light a little bit up here at the top of the waterfall. And then I've got another neutral density filter across it all so that I can slow the water down even further. I think it's on about a 10-second exposure. So let's see what that looks like. All right, let's pull that up. And I think that's going to give me about what I'm looking for. And I can take down that brightness there in Lightroom, I think. And we should be good to go. I'm going to see what else I can photograph here before I take off. For instance, there is a shoe right over here that might make an interesting photograph, and somebody's left behind their swimming goggles as well, so I'll take a few shots along the way, and then we'll go over here. You can see there is a waterfall right back there. I'm going to walk over there and see what's there in a minute. All right, so let me tell you what happened next. Before we do that, let's just go back a minute. So I'm experimenting with the video side of this, and when I got back and got my footage back into DaVinci Resolve, I realized just how awful my footage was. You can do a lot of things with video in DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro. One of the things that is almost impossible to do is to fix footage that is inherently bad to start with. So I've left all the footage. I did do a few things here and there, try to boost some shadows, try to get a little bit of contrast, try to make it a little bit more watchable, but overall the video is awful. So I'm filming now after doing a little more research on YouTube, because that's my go-to site for learning how to do what I'm doing. I learned how to reset some shooting settings in my Canon M50 to give me more of a flat profile that will allow me to fix the color later. I've also learned that I have to make sure I'm looking at the white balance and I'm looking at the histogram before I start videoing. So all that aside, let me tell you what happened next. I got to this place where I took the last picture that I showed you, and I was thinking to myself, lighting-wise, composition-wise, where the falls were located, some leading lines from the rocks, I had a pretty decent image. It wasn't super stellar, but it was a pretty decent image. And so I picked up everything and I was getting ready to leave, and I walked just a few feet over to the right, and I found a totally different composition that was exactly what I had been looking for the entire time. In fact, I was so excited by the fact that I had this composition that when I got everything set up to start taking the pictures, I totally forgot to do any more video footage. So there is no video of me taking these images to show you what it looked like. So what I thought I would do is pull you into Lightroom with me and show you a little bit of what my thinking was as I was taking these pictures. And then maybe next time I won't be so overcome with emotion that I forget what I'm there for. Anyway, let's take a look. All right, so what you see here on the screen are a bank of images that I took in this particular slot where I was finding where I was going. So let me pull up the image. And what I did was I moved just a little bit over to the right. This rock here, these two rocks out here in front are the same two rocks that were in front of the last image. Now this is a raw file, so it has not been edited yet. But what I did was I eliminated that big bulk of rocks over on the left and found a better leading line of these small rocks toward the falls. The other thing that it did was allow the reflection of the falls in the water and the light cast in the water to create a leading line back toward the rocks. And this composition was the composition that I was looking for the entire time. If I had taken time to walk around a little more, perhaps I would have spotted this early on. But maybe I just wasn't ready to see it yet. I don't know. But I'm glad I did. So what I did here was I took several different pictures, and the reason that I took them was because of this large amount of light over here on the left-hand side of the screen in the top right and the top left corner. That bit of light compared to the shadow on the other side of the falls, I was afraid would be difficult to correct in Lightroom. And so I took some images where I set the focus point on different parts of the image in order to adjust the amount of light coming in for that particular point and adjust the shutter speed. And then, so once I had that, we'll just walk through here. So here's one that I opened up just a little bit lighter because I didn't want these shadows down here in the front to be so dark. And then I began to just sort of move the focus point around to get different areas of light. And you can see as I get here, that difference between the light and shadow is more muted. The light is a little muted in the upper, which is one of the things that I was looking for. And then this particular image here is where I got that focus up in the upper left-hand corner of the trees, again, to bring the light down even more. So my thinking was, as I got through these, was I would pull them all into Photoshop as layers. Now, I could do a couple of things here, and I won't take the time to demonstrate what I did. I'll just kind of talk you through my thought process. But a couple of things that I could have done. So one of the things I could have done was to have brought the layers in, put a layer mask over one, painted in an area of light from another one. I'm not very good at that, and so I decided not to do that. What I did instead was I brought these into Photoshop in layers. I converted them into a smart, first I aligned all the layers. I converted them into a smart object and did a blend mode of median so that I could get all of the spaces that I focused in focus pretty easily. And that would also do a couple of other things. It would adjust the light for me. And this area of water down at the bottom around the rocks, it would cause it to look a little smoother because of all of the multiple exposures, which is where I wanted to go. I wanted that to be a little bit more. So when I got there and I pulled it into back into Lightroom, this was what I had. So I had, you can see this is still an unedited image, but you can see that the light coming in toward the rocks is brighter than it was before. There's a bit more of a blue cast to the water which I was kind of pleased with. I didn't get the top left as dark as I wanted, but it was a good starting place. And so after doing some edits in Lightroom, this was my final image. And it may be just a little bit dark. I may still have to toy with it just a little bit. But overall, I think this is an image that I can be very, very pleased with. I've got a pretty good detail on the rock. The water has been knocked down enough that it's not blowing out the highlights. The water at the bottom is kind of speckled looking from all the rocks underneath, which I like. The rocks that I got in the picture were all wet, which makes them look more contrasty in the picture. And I did crop it just a bit to get rid of a footprint in the lower left-hand corner that was in there that somebody had been there before me walking across the sand. So overall, this was the final image of Foster Falls, and I think this is to me, this may be one of the best waterfall images I've ever taken. At least it feels like that to me. It's not the best waterfall picture ever taken, but for my skill set and my ability to see what I'm doing and to sort of understand composition and layout and all those kinds of things, this is one of those pictures I think that I could hang my hat on and say I did a good job here. You may disagree, hopefully not, but so there you have it, a trip to Foster Falls. I'm learning. I'm still learning. A year on, and I will always be learning, but a year on, I'm beginning to pay more particular attention to what I'm doing in the overall process of creating videos for YouTube, as well as creating images for my own enjoyment. I will throw this out just to say that on the way back from Foster Falls, I had passed a sign to a place called Denny Cove, which I had never heard of before. And when I did a Google search on the map of waterfalls near me, Denny Cove did not come up. And so I took that road on the way home, and I drove back a little over a mile into the woods to the parking area for the trail loop, and saw that there was a waterfall on that trail, Denny Cove Waterfall. And I looked that up, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm hoping that my next trip next week will be to Denny Cove, take another little hike, and maybe we'll do a little better job of shooting some video and making the story a little more interesting. We'll see. I hope y'all have a great day. In the meantime, have a cup of coffee, relax, enjoy the day, and we'll catch you in the next video.